Hi, welcome to A Gray Barn Rising. I'm sitting here this evening with Bootsy Beagle, of course, and I'm reading the poetry of the monumental American poet Robert Bly. Bly was born in 1926. I've been thinking about him for days because, well, we've had a lot of cold weather and snow here in Fort Wayne, and I've been thinking about his first book, Silence in the Snowy Fields. And it's been really beautiful to return to his poetry again. He's such a powerful poet, and he's exerted a profound influence on American poetry through his poems, his essays, and his translations of poets who had not really been known in this country before he brought them over into English. So I'd like to begin by reading from Silence in the Snowy Fields, and I'll read from a few collections of his work. But I'd like to begin with the very first poem in his first book, and it's in 3 parts. I'll just pause between sections. And it's entitled, 3 Kinds of Pleasures. Sometimes riding in a car in Wisconsin or Illinois, you notice those dark telephone poles, one by one, lift themselves out of the fence line and slowly leap on the gray sky, and past them the snowy fields. The darkness drifts down like snow on the picked cornfields in Wisconsin, and on these black trees scattered one by one through the winter fields. We see stiff weeds and brownish stubble, and white snow left now only in the wheel tracks of the combine. It is a pleasure also to be driving towards Chicago near dark and see the lights in the barns, the bare trees more dignified than ever, like a fierce man on his deathbed, and the ditches along the road half full of a private snow. You'll notice words like private and quiet and silence throughout this book, and in a lot of Bly's poems actually. He's been a big proponent of embracing a generative solitude, of people seeking solitude in order to come to a deeper understanding of themselves. Driving toward the Lac Qui Parle River, a poem similarly in 3 parts. I am driving, it is dusk, Minnesota. The stubble field catches the last growth of sun. The soybeans are breathing on all sides. Old men are sitting before their houses on car seats in the small towns. I am happy, the moon rising above the turkey sheds. The small world of the car plunges through the deep fields of the night on the road from Wilmar to Milan. This solitude covered with iron moves through the fields of night, penetrated by the noise of crickets. Nearly to Milan, suddenly a small bridge and water kneeling in the moonlight. In small towns, the houses are built right on the ground. The lamplight falls on all fours in the grass. When I reach the river, the full moon covers it. A few people are talking low in a boat. That poem also carries the influence of ancient Chinese poetry. The description, particularly the closing, a description of the environment and the observer's observation of that without intrusion. A line like a few people are talking low in a boat. Really observational, but captures the environment powerfully. Bly has been a big proponent of bringing together dichotomies within the psyche. And he studied Jung, in particular Carl Jung, and this is a poem that I think deals with that, and it's called A Man Writes to a Part of Himself. What cave are you in, hiding, rained on, like a wife starving without care, water dripping from your head, bent over ground corn? You raise your face into the rain that drives over the valley. Forgive me, your husband, on the streets of a distant city, laughing, with many appointments, though at night going also to a bare room, a room of poverty, to sleep among a bare pitcher and basin in a room with no heat. Which of us two, then, is the worse off? And how did this separation come about? There's a poem entitled Depression. I felt my heart beat like an engine high in the ground. Let me start that again. I felt my heart beat like an engine high in the air, like those scaffolding engines standing only on planks. My body hung about me like an old grain elevator, useless, clogged, full of blackened wheat. My body was sour, my life dishonest, and I fell asleep. I dreamt that men came toward me, carrying thin wires. I felt the wires pass in like fire. They were old Tibetans dressed in padded clothes to keep out cold. Then 3 work gloves lying fingers to fingers in a circle came toward me, and I awoke. Now I want to go back among the dark roots. Now I want to see the day pulling its long wing. I want to see nothing more than 2 feet high. I want to see no one. I want to say nothing. I want to go down and rest in the black earth of silence. Snowfall in the Afternoon, poem in 4 parts. The grass is half covered with snow. It was the sort of snowfall that starts in late afternoon, and now the little houses of the grass are growing dark. If I reached my hands down near the earth, I could take handfuls of darkness. The darkness was always there, which we never noticed. As the snow grows heavier, the corn stalks fade farther away, and the barn moves nearer to the house. The barn moves all alone in the growing storm. The barn is full of corn and moving toward us now, like a hulk blown toward us in a storm at sea. All the sailors on deck have been blind for many years. I want to turn now to a book of his that won the National Book Award for Poetry in 1967, entitled The Light Around the Body. A lot of these poems were written in response to the Vietnam War, and I want to share a couple of these poems with you, and I think you'll be able to hear some interesting tonal shifts in this book, from Silence in the Snowy Fields. I also hear in some of these poems the deep influence of some of the poets he was translating, particularly Federico Garcia Lorca. Johnson's Cabinet, Watched by Ants. It's in 3 parts. It is a clearing deep in a forest, overhanging boughs make a low place. Here the citizens we know during the day, the ministers, the department heads, appear changed. The stockholders of large steel companies in small wooden shoes. Here are the generals dressed as gambling lambs. Tonight they burn the rice supplies. Tomorrow they lecture on Thoreau. Tonight they move around the trees. Tomorrow they pick the twigs from their clothes. Tonight they throw the fire bombs. Tomorrow they read the Declaration of Independence. Tomorrow they are in church. Ants are gathered around an old tree. In a choir they sing in harsh and gravelly voices, old Etruscan songs on tyranny. Toads nearby clap their small hands and join the fiery songs, their 5 long toes trembling in the soaked earth. Here's a powerful poem entitled Hatred of Men with Black Hair. And Bly makes reference in this poem too to some of the atrocities committed in the world, but in particular, I remember hearing him read this a couple of times, and at one point he said that we hadn't really even dealt with our karma of genocide of the Native Americans in this country. And you're going to see that idea comes through in the poem as well. It's entitled Hatred of Men with Black Hair. I hear voices praising Tshombe and the Portuguese in Angola. These are the men who skinned Little Crow. We are all their sons, skulking in back rooms, selling nails with trembling hands. We distrust every person on earth with black hair. We send teams to overthrow Chief Joseph's government. We train natives to kill presidents with blow darts. We have men loosening the nails on Noah's Ark. The State Department floats in the heavy jellies near the bottom, like exhausted crustaceans, like squids who are confused, sending out beams of black light to the open sea, fighting their fraternal feeling for the great landlords. We have violet rays that light up the jungles at night, showing the friendly populations. We are teaching the children of ritual to overcome their longing for life, and we send sparks of black light that fit the holes in the general's eyes. Underneath all the cement of the Pentagon, there is a drop of Indian blood, preserved in snow, preserved from a trail of blood that once led away from the stockade over the snow, the trail now lost. I want to give you one poem from This Tree Will Be Here for 1,000 Years, my favorite poem in this book. Returning a little bit more to that energy of silence in the snowy fields. It's entitled Passing an Orchard by Train. Grass high under apple trees, the bark of the trees rough and sexual, the grass growing heavy and uneven. We cannot bear disaster, like the rocks swaying nakedly in open fields. One slight bruise and we die. I know no one on this train. A man comes walking down the aisle. I want to tell him that I forgive him, that I want him to forgive me. Closing of that poem is so healing and so powerful. I want to tell him that I forgive him, that I want him to forgive me. Absolutely incredible. And I'd like to close this evening's reading of Robert Bly with a reading of a longer poem from his book Sleepers Joining Hands. Those of you who know Bly have probably recognized that I'm reading from his first few books. I'm reading his early poems. Although this tree will be here for 1,000 years, it's somewhere in the middle. But Silence in the Snowy Fields, The Light Around the Body, and Sleepers were early books. So this is from Sleepers Joining Hands. And this, he has the poems in this book, and then he has an essay on great mother culture. And then, which is really unusual in a book of poems to have prose like that. And then he comes back with some poems in this book. And then the closing poem of the book is entitled An Extra Joyful Chorus for Those Who Have Read This Far. Always loved the title of that piece. An extra joyful chorus for those who have read this far. I sit alone late at night. I sit with eyes closed. Thoughts shoot through me. I am not floating, but fighting. In the marshes, the mysterious mother calls to her moor-bound chicks. I love the mother. I am an enemy of the mother. Give me my sword. I leap into her mouth full of seaweed. I am the single splinter that shoots through the stratosphere, leaving fire trails. I walk upright, robes flapping at my heels. I am fleeing along the ground like a frightened beast. I am the ball of fire the woodman cuts out of the wolf's stomach. I am the sun that floats over the witch's house. I am the horse sitting in the chestnut tree, singing. I am the man locked inside the oak womb, waiting for lightning, only let out on stormy nights. I am the steelhead trout that hurries to his mountain mother to live again in the stream where he was born, gobbling up the new water. Sometimes when I read my own poems late at night, I sense myself on a long road. I feel the naked thing alone in the universe, the hairy body padding in the fields at dusk. I have floated in the eternity of the cod heaven. I have felt the silver of infinite numbers brush my side. I am the crocodile unrolling and slashing through the mudded water. I am the baboon crying out as her baby falls from the tree. I am the light that makes the flax blossom at midnight. I am an angel breaking into 3 parts over the Ural Mountains. I am no one at all. I am a thorn enduring in the dark sky. I am the one whom I have never met. I am a swift fish shooting through the troubled waters. I am the last inheritor crying out in deserted houses. I am the salmon hidden in the pool on the temple floor. I am what remains of the beloved. I am an insect with black enamel knees hugging the curve of insanity. I am the evening light rising from the ocean plains. I am an eternal happiness fighting in the long reeds. Our faces shine with the darkness reflected from the Tigris, cells made by the honeybees that go on growing after death. A room darkened with curtains made of human hair. The panther rejoices in the gathering dark. Hands rush toward each other through miles of space. All the sleepers in the world join hands. course, he's referring, building upon Walt Whitman's great poem, The Sleepers. Those are a few of the wonderful poems of the poet Robert Bly. His work is readily available, and I hope you seek it out. I read from, in order backwards, Sleepers Joining Hands, This Tree Will Be Here for 1,000 Years, The Light Around the Body, and Silence in the Snowy Fields. Thank you so much for joining Bootsy and me for another episode of A Gray Barn Ride.